warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, our program bringing you all the latest news and developments happening inside the African continent. My name is Angie Meher and I'll be joining you for this afternoon, and we begin straight away with a look at the news making the headlines, where President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed Egypt's keenness in pushing bilateral cooperation between Egypt and Algeria on all levels. This came during President el-Sisi's meeting with the Algerian Foreign Minister Ramtan al-Amamra. During the meeting, the President underscored the importance of activating the joint committees to boost relations between the two brotherly countries. On his part, the Algerian Foreign Minister handed over a written message from the Algerian President to President el-Sisi that focused on boosting bilateral cooperation in all fields, as well as said that he looked forward to more coordination and consultation with President el-Sisi during the next period to deal with challenges facing the region and the Arab nation. The meeting also touched on the importance of holding the next round of the Higher Joint Committee on the level of Prime Ministers during this year, in addition to holding the next round of political consultation on the level of foreign ministers. We are now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Mr. Ahmed El-Lisi, the political and economic analyst. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ahmed.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this afternoon on this edition of Africa Today. And of course, today, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Algerian Foreign Minister and received a letter from the Algerian President. Tell us about the importance of this meeting, sir.
Well, to start with, Egypt and Algeria go back a very long time ago. I mean, we are the two largest countries in the north of the continent, and we do have a very, very special relationship. It goes from the time of the Algerian struggle for independence in the last century.
Yes.
So we have an extremely important relationship. We are both neighboring countries to Libya, and everything that happens there does affect both countries.
Absolutely.
So the stability of North Africa is key for both countries. We have a very common objective in that area, and the cooperation. And it's worth mentioning that actually to express the importance of Algeria, it was actually the first presidential visit that the President Sisi conducted was to a foreign country, was his visit to Algeria. I remember because I was living in Algeria at that time.
Yes. Mr. Ahmed, yes, carry on, sir.
So it's, the relationship between the two countries is extremely important, and it is the stability of the region of North Africa actually lies between the two largest powers in that region, which is Egypt and Algeria. So the cooperation comes in that context, and it's very normal to have that cooperation.
Absolutely. And as you said, Libya and also Tunisia featured high on the agenda of the talks between the Algerian Foreign Minister in Cairo. How do you see the developments in these two countries affecting security and stability for the North African region as a whole?
The situation is different between Libya and Tunisia. Libya is the roadmap that was structured to reach the elections on the 24th of last December has been stalled, and we have to reactivate that roadmap, because the only solution in Libya is twofold, basically. Is one, all the foreign powers in terms of mercenaries and otherwise have to leave the countries. Libya has to be managed by Libyans only. And then after that, it has to go through a democratic process, specifically the elections, as to build the institutions for this country. The risk in Libya is to go back to the tribal structure, and it gets divided to the old three sections in Libya, which is Tripoli and Tripoli, and the other section. So we cannot allow it. Libya has to be unified and modified, unified and solid country, and it has to re-establish the institutions, the political institutions in the country.
Yes.
And so the interest is for everybody. Today, Libya has no centralized, valid or legitimate centralized government. It is extremely dangerous, a very rich country, and today it's a no-man land with no clear centralized leadership.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
cannot go on. So this is the issue in Libya. If we look at Tunisia, it's very different. The country or the government was almost hijacked by the Muslim Brotherhood, and the president there actually realized this, and he did what is right for the country. However, he is on the far side borderline on what the new constitution, which was done after the revolution, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 2001, 2014, something in that neighborhood.
Yes.
Hardly gives him the right, and one of the things, for example, that gives him the right to go to the Federal Constitutional Court.
Yes, that's the Tunisian situation.
Yeah, but they don't have a federal constitution.
Right.
You see, so it's a bit of a shame.
Right.
So and obviously there is a concern in that.
Yes, right. Let's move back to, of course, the topic in discussion, which is Algeria. And the president said that the joint Egyptian-Algerian Higher Committee will be meeting on the level of prime ministers. How important do you see this committee? How do you see the meetings between this committee serving the interests of both Algeria as well as Egypt?
I think it's spot on, exactly in the bullseye target, and that this committee has to activate for the mutual and reciprocal benefit of two countries. Algeria went through during the time of President Bouteflika, or the departure and the changes that happened in the leadership of the army. Went through a little bit of a turbulent period. Thanks God it was not too turbulent, but there was a transition period which was not easy. The challenge in Algeria is very high. It is a challenge of development. There is a lot of cash. The country is cash rich, yet the development has a long way to go. Egypt can support Algeria in that direction on a lot of things and multiple dimensions. It's very important for Algeria to go to its Arabic and North African context rather than the European context. Algeria is not a European country, and it will never be. This is the reality of things. So the Arab and the North Algerian context, and Egypt can help
in that
support
regard.
Algeria to get there.
Yes, absolutely. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Ahmed Al-Lissi, our analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and for your insight. And we move on with more news making the headlines, where Cairo has called on the United Nations Security Council to fulfill its duties to support African countries affected by terrorism and extremism. Shukri was speaking via video conference to the consultative meeting between the AU Peace and Security Council and the African members of the UNSC on Monday. We have more details in this report.
Cairo said African solidarity is important in facing the continent's crises, especially terrorism and extremism, calling on the Security Council to support African initiatives in this regard. Speaking at the consultative meeting between the AU Peace and Security Council PSC and the African members of the UNSC on Monday, Shukri said there is belief in the vital role played by regional mechanisms and groupings in achieving security and stability in Africa, as well as the role that the UNSC can play in supporting the security capabilities of these groupings and mechanisms. He said Cairo is intensifying its efforts to support by every means the capacity building of African institutions in areas affected by terrorism. He said these include organizing training courses for the joint forces of the African peacekeeping missions. Shukri called for the continued coordination between the PSC and the 3 African members of the UNSC to support unified African interests and stances regarding continental security and peace. During Monday's meeting, Shukri also affirmed the need to pay the necessary attention to the effect of climate change on Africa's security and peace. Shukri said Cairo will seek to coordinate with African countries during its chairmanship of the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP27, to defend continental interests, highlight Africa's unified stances, and raise African concerns regarding the negative implications of climate change. Late last year, Egypt was officially selected to host COP27 in November 2022 in Sharm el-Sheikh as a representative of Africa.
The South African government has decided not to impose lockdowns or quarantine measures over the next wave of the coronavirus pandemic. It says this decision was taken citing the severe economic repercussions of any lockdowns. We have more details in this story.
South Africa seems to be ready to live with the COVID pandemic as it does not plan to impose lockdown or any rules for quarantine. This comes as the country has witnessed an unprecedented surge in the number of coronavirus cases, fueled by the emergence and spread of new variant Omicron. The South African government has decided to take a more pragmatic approach. It will also keep an eye on severe COVID cases and whether health systems are under threat or not. On January 9, the medical experts of the country had said that restrictions enforced on the economy, livelihoods and other aspects of society due to coronavirus have indirect but severe effects. They recommended that the government should not blindly go for such restrictions imposed across the world, as they are not possible locally and yield only nominal benefits. At this time, the country is witnessing the fourth wave of the pandemic. The new approach of the government is in stark contrast to the worldwide practice of imposing restrictions to curtail the rise in the number of COVID cases.
And finally, for some African sports, the AFCON 2021 continues on Tuesday with 4 games. Malawi will play against Senegal, Zimbabwe against Guinea, Gabon versus Morocco, and Ghana will meet Comoros. The tournament will conclude with the final, which is expected to be on Sunday, February the 6th. We have more details in this report.
The AFCON 2021 tournament, originally scheduled to be played in June and July 2021, is being held in Cameroon between January 9 and February 6, 2022. 24 teams are taking part. The action kicked off with hosts Cameroon beating Burkina Faso in Yaoundé and will culminate in the final on February 6 at the same Olembe Stadium venue. The final Group C game against Comoros has become a must-win match for Ghana, who could suffer a surprise early exit after failing to claim a victory in 2 previous matches. A bad-tempered draw with Gabon, who snatched a late leveler, could have provided a decisive blow to Ghana, particularly as Benjamin Tete was sent off following a post-match brawl. Gabon, even without the absent Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, are sitting in second place but will face Group C leaders Morocco in a match that will also decide Ghana's fate. Earlier in the day, Senegal can ease any lingering fears of elimination with a win over Malawi, who sit just a point below in Group B. Rwandan referee Salima Mukansanga will lead an all-female lineup of match officials as Guinea attempt to finish top of Group B with a win over Zimbabwe.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of Africa Today. We do hope you have enjoyed it. Join us again tomorrow just after 2 p.m. for a new episode. Till then, it's goodbye.